When you start chasing her, she pulls away because you've just flipped the dynamic that made her interested in the first place. Here's what's happening in her mind. She was attracted to you when you had your own life, your own priorities, your own direction. You were someone she had to earn access to. Then the moment you decided she was the priority, something shifted. Suddenly you're the one doing the chasing. And now she's not chasing anymore. She's running. This isn't about games. This isn't about playing hard to get or pretending you don't care. This is about basic human psychology that applies to both men and women. But we're going to focus on why women specifically pull away when they sense this shift. Women are attracted to stability and security, but not the kind that comes from a man who needs them. They're attracted to a man who's secure within himself. When you chase, you signal the opposite. You signal that your emotional state depends on whether she responds to you. You're essentially saying, "Your attention is what makes me feel okay." That's not attractive, that's neediness. The pull-away happens because she's testing whether you're actually that secure person she thought you were, or if you were just performing confidence until she showed interest. And when you chase, you fail the test. But here's the deeper layer. When you chase, you also remove her ability to choose you. Choice is incredibly important to women. She wants to feel like she's selecting you, not that she's being pursued and cornered into a relationship. Chasing removes her agency. It puts her in a defensive position, so she pulls away to reclaim control and to see if you'll respect her boundaries. There's also the timing element. Early attraction is delicate, it's fragile. It requires both people to maintain their own identity and their own life. The moment one person abandons that and reorganizes around the other person, the attraction often dies. Not because she stopped liking you, but because the conditions that created the attraction are gone. Think about it this way. She was interested in a man with direction, purpose, and self-respect. If you suddenly drop all of that to chase her, you're no longer that man. You're a different version of you. And she's not attracted to this new version. The pull-away is also a boundary. It's her way of saying, "I need you to remember who you were before you met me." It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary information. She's telling you that the relationship can't survive if you lose yourself in it. So when she pulls away, your instinct is usually to chase harder. You text more. You try to convince her of your feelings. You make grand gestures. And every single one of those things pushes her further away, because you're still not getting the message. You're still operating from a place of need, rather than a place of security. The women who stay in relationships are the ones who date men who never lost themselves in the first place. They're with men who maintained their own life, their own friends, their own goals, even after the relationship started. Those men didn't have to chase because they were never chasing. They were just living their lives and inviting her to be part of it. So the question isn't how to chase her back. The question is how to become the man she was attracted to in the first place. And that starts with understanding exactly what that dynamic looks like and how to rebuild it once you've broken it. When you start chasing, you're essentially saying with your actions that she's become more valuable than your own life. And women can feel that shift immediately. It's not conscious on her part, but her nervous system registers it. Suddenly the man who was interesting and self-directed is now orbiting around her. And that changes everything about how she perceives you. Here's what actually happens in her mind. In the beginning, she was attracted to your independence. You had your own world. You had priorities outside of her. That wasn't a tactic, that was just who you were. But the moment you start chasing, you're signaling that those things weren't real. You were just waiting for her to show up, so you could make her your whole world. And that's deeply unattractive, because it suggests you don't have much of a world to begin with. Women are wired to be attracted to men who have something going on. Not because of ego or status, though those can play a role, But because a man with his own life, his own mission, his own circle of people who matter to him, that man is stable. He's not going to collapse if she needs space. He's not going to become bitter or resentful if she takes time to think. He's not going to text her 17 times wondering why she hasn't responded. When you chase, you're also putting her in a position of power that she never asked for. Suddenly she's responsible for managing your emotions. She has to decide whether to respond to your messages, whether to give you another chance, whether to validate you. That's exhausting. And it flips the dynamic from mutual interest to her being the gatekeeper of your happiness. The pulling away isn't rejection of you as a person. It's her instinct kicking in that something fundamental has changed. The man she was interested in is gone. In his place is someone who needs her validation to feel okay about himself. And that's not attractive. That's a burden. This is why some guys get stuck in a loop. They chase harder because she's pulling away, not realizing that the pulling away is a direct response to the chasing. Every text, every attempt to convince her, every gesture designed to win her back is actually pushing her further away, because it's confirming her suspicion that you've lost yourself. The reset requires something counterintuitive. You have to genuinely step back. Not as a tactic to manipulate her into coming back, but because it's the only way to actually rebuild attraction. You need to get your own life back. You need to remember why you had things going on before she came into the picture. You need to be busy. You need to have plans that don't include her. You need to have friends you're actually spending time with. You need to have goals you're actively pursuing. And here's the thing, when you do this genuinely, when you're not doing it to trigger some response from her, something shifts. Your energy changes. Your presence changes. You stop being available all the time. You stop being reactive. You become interesting again. Because you're actually living an interesting life. That's when she might come back. Not because you won her over with persistence or grand gestures, but because you became the man she was originally attracted to. The one who had options. The one who had direction. The one who didn't need her to complete him. So here's what actually happens in her mind when you switch gears. When you stop chasing and you go back to living, she notices the absence. And that absence does something powerful. It creates space for her to miss you. Not in a manipulative way, in a real way. See, when you're chasing, you're constantly signaling neediness. Every text, every call, every attempt to see her is basically saying, I don't have anything better to do than think about you. And on a psychological level, that triggers something in her. It's not attraction. It's the opposite. It's a switch that flips from seeing you as a partner to seeing you as something she has to manage. But when you pull back and you're genuinely occupied with your life, something shifts in how she perceives you. You're no longer the person trying to convince her of your value. You're the person who already knows his value. That's magnetic. That's the thing that actually makes women want to lean in. There's a concept in psychology called scarcity. When something is abundant and readily available, we don't value it. But when it becomes scarce, when it requires effort to access, suddenly it matters more. Your attention is no different. When you give it freely and constantly, it loses its weight. When you redirect it toward your own life, toward your own goals, it becomes something she has to earn again. And here's the thing that a lot of guys get wrong. This isn't about playing games. This isn't about ignoring her to make her jealous or using reverse psychology. That's still manipulation. That's still coming from a place of trying to control her behavior. What we're talking about is actually different. It's about becoming someone worth chasing. Because you're busy being the person you actually want to be. When you're living your life fully, you're not thinking about whether she's going to come back. You're not checking your phone every 5 minutes. You're not analyzing her last text for hidden meaning. You're just moving forward, and that peace, that genuine indifference to the outcome, is what actually creates the conditions for her to reconsider. The irony is that most guys think they need to do something to win her back. They think there's a magic move or the perfect words. But the real move is doing nothing. It's not reaching out. It's not trying to prove yourself. It's not negotiating or explaining or fighting for it. It's just living. And when you do that consistently, when weeks go by, and you're genuinely focused on other things, her brain starts filling in the blanks. She starts wondering what you're doing, who you're with, why you're not trying anymore. The narrative in her head shifts from him being desperate to him moving on. And that's when the pull toward you actually increases. This is what real attraction looks like from the inside. It's not about manipulation or games. It's about self-respect. It's about understanding that your value doesn't come from convincing someone else to see it. It comes from knowing it yourself and living like it's true. When you stop chasing, something shifts in her perception of you. She starts to wonder what changed. She starts to notice the things she took for granted when you were always available. Maybe it's the way you used to text her first thing in the morning. Maybe it's how you'd rearrange your schedule just to see her. When that stops, there's a vacuum. And humans hate vacuums. We fill them with questions. This is where most people mess up the execution. They think pulling back means becoming cold or distant. It means becoming unavailable in a punishing way, like you're teaching her a lesson. That's not it. That's just resentment dressed up as strategy. Real pulling back looks like this. You're still warm when you interact. You're still genuinely interested in her life. But you're no longer the one driving the interaction. You're no longer the one keeping the momentum going. The difference is subtle, but she feels it immediately. You used to text her 3 times before she responded once. Now you text once and wait for her to come back to you. You used to suggest dates and she'd pick from your options. Now you suggest something, and if she's interested, she makes it happen. You used to be the emotional thermostat in the relationship, constantly adjusting to keep things warm and comfortable. Now you're just living your life, and she's welcome to be part of it. Here's what happens in her mind during this transition. At first, she might feel relieved. No more pressure. No more feeling like she has to manage your emotions or your expectations. But relief doesn't last. After a few days or a week, relief turns into curiosity. Where did he go? What's he doing? Why isn't he trying anymore? And curiosity is the gateway to desire. She starts thinking about you differently, because you're not constantly in her space demanding her attention. But there's something deeper happening too. When you stop chasing, you're sending a message that doesn't require words. You're saying that you respect her autonomy. You're saying that you're not desperate for her validation. You're saying that your life has meaning and fullness whether she's in it or not. Women are attracted to men who have this quality because it signals strength, security, and self-sufficiency. These aren't shallow attractions. They're rooted in something primal about what makes a partner safe and reliable. The pulling back also exposes whether she actually wants you or whether she just liked the feeling of being wanted. This is crucial information. If she disappears completely when you stop chasing, then you have your answer. She was never interested in you. She was interested in the attention. And that's actually a gift, because now you don't waste months or years trying to convince someone to care about you. But if she starts reaching out, if she asks why you've been distant, if she suddenly makes an effort to see you and spend time with you, then you know something real is there. That's when you know the attraction is genuine. That's when you know she's choosing you, not just accepting your pursuit. The entire dynamic flips. You're no longer trying to win her over. You're 2 people who both want to be together, and that's infinitely more powerful than any amount of chasing could ever be. So here's what changes when you actually understand this. You stop seeing her pulling away as rejection. You see it as information. She's telling you something about what she needs, And if you listen instead of pushing harder, you get to build something real. The guys who get this right aren't the ones with the best pickup lines or the most persistence. They're the ones who can sit with uncertainty without needing to resolve it immediately. They're comfortable enough in themselves that they don't need her validation to feel okay. And paradoxically, that's exactly what makes her feel safe enough to move toward them. This isn't about playing games or being cold. It's about having enough self-respect that you won't chase someone who isn't meeting you halfway. It's about understanding that her pulling away might mean she needs space, or it might mean she's not interested, and both of those are okay. Your job isn't to convince her. Your job is to be clear about who you are and what you want. Then let her decide if that's something she wants too. When you do that, something shifts. The women who are genuinely interested will feel the difference immediately. They'll stop testing you because you're no longer reacting to tests. You're just being yourself. And the ones who aren't interested will fade away naturally, which saves you months of confusion and energy. The real lesson here is that attraction isn't something you create through effort. It's something you allow by being grounded enough to not need it. When you stop chasing, you become the person worth chasing. When you stop trying to convince her, you become the kind of person who doesn't need convincing. So moving forward, here's what to actually do. Notice when you feel the urge to reach out again after she's gone quiet. Notice that impulse, and then do something else instead. Go to the gym, call a friend, work on something that matters to you. Give her space to miss you, and more importantly, give yourself space to remember that your life is full without her in it. That's not cold. That's healthy. The women who matter will recognize that. They'll see someone who has their own life, their own purpose, their own sense of worth. And that's infinitely more attractive than desperation dressed up as persistence ever could be. That's the shift that changes everything.